dismal picture is being subverted. And that's the delightful piece of this history, because absolutely it's not what it should be. When African American history is present, it is frequently marginalized, misrepresented, or just outright missing in some places. But every day, history gets taught by the way in which we conduct our affairs. History is in other subjects beside history, and that's one of the things I'd like us to think about, is that history is present in the things we choose for literature. History is present in what gets covered in math, science, and so forth. And so there are attempts to subvert that dismal situation by educators all around the country. Because when we don't have the history, we see the kind of failures, we see students hating themselves, we see students feeling disempowered. And as that film suggested, when we can demonstrate that how history allows young people to be more fully themselves, we have a tool to use to make our case. But it's bad news. And beyond, I have a dream, which is dreamt to death in many contexts. A lot is not covered. But one of the things I hope will happen tonight is that we can look at the other ways in which we can engage teachers and others to do. And to forget about history as something that's covered just at a certain time of day, but to see how the activities of humankind are present in all areas of school life.
So it's difficult for us, and there are teachers out here. How do we teach the teachers, and how do we learn this stuff, and how do we get support? And I know the idea of resistance, I know of us winning, and any of you teachers out there who want to talk to me afterwards, please, I get lonely out here. But when I put myself out there, a lot of teachers do come forward. So what are the tools that we have to teach the children?
Well, a couple of things come to mind, and just listening to, say, the account you gave about the history of criminalization and the question of time, and how do we get all of that in. The approach is to set up points of comparison with the present. They always help people to begin with where they stand, so there's no escape. They can't say, well, why are you bringing that up? I'm bringing it up because you brought it up, and you have expressed concern about that. And then you offer, say, a comparison, just giving you concretely, like you have two columns, the key points to what you said. And I said, have a look at the legacy of that in classrooms. What things do you see there that you're faced with now? So a comparative approach gets people interested, an embedding approach gets people interested, because I am dealing with what you have asked me to deal with, like in an hour, that's what I have, that's what we'll do. And then certainly an applied approach as to how it could be done. And I think that the mistake we make often is keeping these strands of history separate, so separate. Oh, we have to stop thinking about history as this subject that gets taught at a given time. For one thing, history has been expunged from the curriculum in so many ways. Officially, there's a lot less history as such being taught. It's been limited to very small bits and pieces. And so an approach, a strategic approach, is to look at where history can be compared with a contemporary situation and embedded in a contemporary situation and applied fully. I often talk about the hand of history. We look at it, and it shows us the past, it explains the present, and it helps us to write a new future, right? Some fourth graders, they took the hand of history and acted, and they did just that. They were looking at the question of immigration as shown in social studies texts in fourth grade, and these children said, but this is not about us, they're missing pieces. And so, the subversive consultant said, go on, write about it. Look at the editorial page, and we have people like James Banks and Lance Billings, and write them and say, we noticed in this textbook that you have approved that we are missing, right? And of course, it's shown in both in Spanish and in English, so they did that. And they said, when you're doing the revised edition, check with us about what should be in there. So all I'm just saying is that kind of practical matter, and you know what those children are actually supposed to be doing? Learning to do expository writing, which is one of the fourth grade standards. So my point is, you attach history to what has to be done. You infuse vacant, ridiculous, nonsensical curriculum with meaning, right? And you engage students and you demonstrate that this infusion is